Om Shanti. Let's spend a few moments in connection with God first. Keep your body still, straight, and relaxed. Allow your body to be very easy. This body is the costume that you, the actor, is wearing to play the role that you are in right now. Consider your body to be just a costume. Your present context is the role you have been assigned at this point of time. You have been given resources, the body, the things around, to carry out roles and responsibilities. But you are the actor. Take your awareness to yourself. You, the actor that is wearing this costume. You are just a star, a very tiny point of consciousness. You are the actor. You, the soul, is playing the role through this body. Just look at yourself, how tiny you are. For some minutes now, unplug your awareness from your costume and your role and responsibilities. Forget everything about the body, about the world around you. Just connect with yourself, the pure light being that you are. Take a break from the stage. Take off the costume. Disengage from the role. Mentally unplug. Just come to being yourself. You are this pure light energy. Very light. All the burden, all the heaviness belongs to the stage. You, the actor, is very pure. very, very light. In this moment where you are with yourself, you are reminded of the one who is actually yours, your true companion, God. You think about Him, I, the being of light, and He, the being of supreme light. We are so similar in form. I am pure. He is the ocean of purity. Think about God. Disengage from the context and engage with the truth for some time. Dwell upon your true nature, your true companion. Unplug from the conditioned, from the role that we have been conditioned into. Sit in this awareness for a few seconds. Om Shanti. So, you are the actor who is wearing this costume and performing roles all day. But just like sometimes the actor takes a break from the stage, goes to the green room, connects with himself, performs actions, thinks thoughts that are true to his nature, not to the role, and then engages with people who he thinks are his own people, not the co-actors. So similarly, we have to take a break from the role and the stage sometimes, go back to being ourselves, think the thoughts that are true to my personal being. So I am a being of purity, peace, love. So let me forget whatever is going on in the stage. Now you see, let's take an example of a situation where there are four brothers, but they are on a stage and then they have been given different roles on that stage. And when they are on the stage, one brother is playing the policeman, another brother is playing the role of the criminal, another one is playing the role of the judge. So they are all playing this role in that play. But as soon as they go backstage, what do? They engage with each other as brothers. So similarly, we have to sometimes engage from the dynamics on this stage, and in the silent moment think of myself as a pure being and of everyone around me as a brother soul. So even if while playing the role, I am playing it differently, so maybe I am in a subservient position or in a commanding position in on the stage. But when I sit in the privacy of my mind, when I sit with myself, let me just forget all the roles and the dynamics and just sit with myself as a pure being, connect with my loveful nature, connect with my all encompassing nature, where I have great love and an open heart for every being, everything on the planet. And then let me think of every soul around me just as a brother soul. Let me forget all the good, bad, right, wrong, or all the other dynamics that exist on the stage. And in this silent moment, let me think of everyone as a brother soul, and let me emerge those feelings of love and peace and happiness inside me, and also connect with the supreme being, the supreme soul, God, who is always the ocean of purity, peace, love. And let me see myself as his child and having his qualities in this silent moment. Because you see, when we are on the stage, when we are enacting the role, we cannot always conduct ourselves in a very we have to conduct ourselves as the role demands. So, for example, if there is a protocol, then you cannot go and hug your patient if you are a doctor, or you cannot go and speak more than you are allowed to with the patient, or there is a protocol for everything. But then when you retrieve from the role and just sit in silence, you can emerge that soul who came to you as a patient, or who is coming to you in other roles, and think of them as a fellow soul, and just look at them or send them that loveful and accepting energy. And when you meet them next time, the relationship between you and them is not only based on the last interaction physically that you had with them, but it also is colored by whatever you have been nurturing them with in these moments of silence. So, this is something that we need to understand, that although I have to play a role and there are certain limitations or to my behavior, or if there is a brother, I have to engage with him differently. So based on the body, has a male body and somebody has a female body. So maybe when I engage with somebody physically, I have to keep in mind that this is a male body, this is a female body, so there are limitations to how we engage. But when I am with myself and I am in connection with my loveful state or pure state, then I can open my heart and send as many good wishes, or have as much of love and respect and regard and acceptance and trust for every soul around me. So we have to take these moments where I engage with myself as a pure being, as a loveful being, peaceful being. I get in touch with my Father, who is the ocean of qualities. And then I think of everyone around me as a pure, peaceful being. Although, everybody has limitations. So the people around you are also souls, but now they are depleted. So they might not be at their best behavior whenever they are around you. But in these silent moments, you can remind yourself that that is also a soul, a depleted soul, a weak soul, which is not able to come up and present itself in its best behavior. But nevertheless, we are connected to each other with the spiritual connection, and I have an open heart and loveful feelings for that soul also. So, and let me tell you one thing. There is this idea of perfection that we have, and then sometimes people will say, I would like people around me to be like this and that and the other, and I want them to be accurate and perfect. But let me tell you, no such human being exists right now. So nobody is perfect. And there was this one brother, and he came to me and told me, Didi, I have a manager, and he has been with me for the last 10 years, but now I think I should get rid of him. So I said, why? So he said he is very slow, and he's not up to date with the times, and he's not able to manage the work which is coming up these days because he doesn't have all the know-how. So I said, then why are you asking me? You should have got rid of him. So he said, no, Didi. So I said, no, no, you first think about it. Why you haven't got rid of him for 10 years? So why is that person with you for 10 years if he's not good enough? So he told me, Didi, you see, he is honest and I can trust him with money matters and these are the things. So I said, okay, so you need somebody who is honest, who you can trust with money matters, who is responsible, diligent, and then up to date also. So he said, yes, Didi, but now that you're putting it this way, it sounds very funny. So I said, no, this is what you are saying. So you are saying that you want somebody who has all these qualities and then also the ones which are missing in him. So he said, yes, probably. So I said, why don't you do one thing? You start looking for that second person first, and when you find that one, then you think about getting rid of this one, right? So he said, I have been looking for that one for 10 years and I have not found. So I said, because that doesn't exist. Why don't you get this simple thing? That person doesn't exist. So how will you find him? So then he said, but Didi, you see, my work is suffering. So I said, no, your work is not suffering. Your work is doing as well as it can. So there is no discrepancy between how much your work can do well and how much it is doing well. There is only a discrepancy between what you think your work can do, how well it can do, and how well it is doing. So, this is just a gap in your thinking, there is no gap in reality. So, it is doing as best as it can, and that manager that you have is doing a good job. And I think if you focused more on the assets, then you could give him some training, or you could make him sit with you and sit with somebody who can update him about the new technology and stuff. And I said, did you try that? So he said, I don't know if he can. So I said, then you should think about he can. So you just try and make him more resourceful rather than looking for a substitute. So you see, we have this. So, do you understand that there is a very good saying, and you should always take note of this: work with what you have got. Work with what you have got. And whatever you have got, whether it is the body or the other people around you, or the things or the resources, or whatever you have got, is good enough. And if you just take some breaks during the day and try to look at them as the best, then you will be able to bring them to their best possible. So, because consciousness creates reality, so if you just disconnected or unplugged or detached from what is for some moments, and just came to an awareness of you in your best state, of your body in the best state, of each one around you in its best state. So, if you just looked at everyone as a soul and everyone as a pure being for some time during the day, then your attitude towards them after you come back into action can do wonders to them. So, this is something that we need to do very often during the day, and at least in the beginning of the day, that we unplug from the so called reality and come back to the reality, which is I am a pure, peaceful, loveful being. That's it. I am not the story, I am not the body, I am not the context, I am not the role. I am a very free, light, peaceful, loveful, pure being. And I look at everything in its best state because that is the true nature. These What you are looking at right now is the distorted form after a long journey. So if you just came back to the awareness of your truth and the truth of everything around you, then you will be slowly shifting everything to its true form, slowly and gradually, bit by bit, by doing this many times a day. So, this is something. Now, I will tell you one thing. There is sometimes, there is this question that comes up that, okay, sister, fine, we will do this, but is it not imagination? So, am I not imagining I am a soul, or am I not imagining there is God, or am I not imagining everybody is a soul? So, sometimes people want to be very authentic and real, and then they would say this is all imagination and stuff. So I would not say, I would not try to argue with you or challenge that this is not imagination, but I would ask you a different question. What else that you are doing is not imagination? So everything that you are doing is imagination all day. So you are imagining, have you seen your body? So you see something in the mirror and then you imagine your body is like this. Can you ever see your face? You can only imagine your face, right? So you trust the mirror and then you imagine your face based on what the mirror tells you. There is no way you can ever see your own, so you can't see your body or your face just like that. So you are imagining your face. So if I said, how do you know your face looks like this? You say, the mirror tells me. I say, no, the mirror lies. There is no way you can even see how your body looks without trusting the mirror. You are thinking about people all day. Where are those people? They are here. You are forming an image of them in your inner world, which is based on how you project them. Pure imagination, that is. I have seen people after 12, 13, 14 years of a relationship coming and telling me they betrayed me. So I said, when did they betray you? Since 10 years. So I said, why are you angry now? I found out now. So did they betray you for 10 years or did they betray you when you found out? so, so they were betraying you and you were fine with it, right? So what is the problem? The problem that they betrayed you, or is the problem you found out? So everything, until and unless it becomes part of our thinking, it is not real to us. So reality exists here. There is no other reality. So whatever finds a place into your inner world is real. So you make everything real. Yes, where do you create this illusion that this person or this thing belongs to you? Nothing ever belongs to you, but this is your imagination that this belongs to you and that belongs to you, and then they never obey you or they are never operating according to your wishes. But you still keep thinking that this belongs to me and that belongs to me. So, where is all that happening? That is happening in your imagination. Yes, I will tell you one incident, and it's a very interesting incident. So, there was this lady, and she came and told me, Didi, I have a child, and that son of mine is 5 years of age, and I'm very confused about whether I love him or not. So I said, why? So she said, Didi, he goes to school every day, and I really love my child, and all day I wait for him, I cook food for him. I really love him and adore him, and I think about him lovingly. But as soon as he comes home, he just throws things around and he creates a big mess, and he's so notorious that within minutes of his coming back every day I beat him very badly. And I really beat him up every day. And then after that, I sit with myself and ask myself, why were you waiting for him all day and why did you end up beating him now that he's home? So I said, how long has he been going to school? So she said, it's been 2 years. So I asked, so every day when he goes to school, what do you do all day? You sit and you think that he will come back and he will keep his shoes in place and socks in place and he will be very well behaved and he will not throw things around and he will not create a mess. So she said, yes, Didi, that's what I think. So I said, then you are not living with your child half your day. You are living with an image of somebody you want as a child. Your child is the one who throws things around when he comes. So if you were living with your child half the day, then you wouldn't find it difficult living with him the other half of the day. But you are not living with your child when he is gone. You are living with an image that you think your child should be like. And then when your child comes back, you hate it that your child is not that one. So you see, we are all disappointed by the reality because we are imagining something else in our heads which is not the reality. Now, I always think about this thing that people say, I don't have a good husband or a good wife. Then I ask them, how many do you have? So they're only one. So I said, if he's only one, then how do you know he's not good? If you had two or three, you could compare. So this one is not good, that one is good. You have only one. Who are you comparing him with or her with? So where is the point of comparison when you have only one? So you are comparing him or her with your imagination, right? You are living with somebody else in your head, and then when you are living with that person in reality, there is a mismatch and there is a disappointment. So this is very subtle and psychological, but this is true. So there is nothing like imagination or reality. Whatever you perceive in your mind is real. And whatever is how you perceive anything or everything depends on your perception, your conditioning. So anyways, what you are perceiving as a reality is what you have been conditioned into. So when we are bringing God into into our consciousness, or making him a part of our our conditioning, so we must understand that God has always existed, but he has never been brought into our thinking in this manner. So, just like everything exists, but it becomes real for you when it becomes a part of your inner world and it is projected into your inner world. Similarly, God has always existed, God always exists, but you are bringing him into your consciousness, your thinking now. So, when you bring him into your thought, he becomes a reality for you. Right? So there is no objective reality as such, there is only subjective reality, because we don't get in touch with the whole anytime. We only get in touch with a bit, and a bit is also projected into us according to our own personal perception and other stuff. So we need to think about these words that we use, like imagination or reality or this or that. So everything is experienced in the mind, And according to the knowledge we have, the understanding we have, the sanskars we have, we experience things differently. And now we are making God a part of our understanding, a part of our consciousness, a part of our experience by bringing Him into our thinking, right? So, this is something that, so, so this is about God being imagination or reality. Now, another thing that we will talk today about is what is the form of God. Yesterday, I told you that God is not a something, He's a someone, and a someone exists somewhere, not everywhere. Contrary to popular belief, God exists somewhere, not everywhere, but you can access Him wherever and whenever you want, provided you keep your doors and windows open. So, we have caged ourselves in this body and we are not able to have access to Him. But before we understand all that, we will first think about what is the form of God. So, what does God look like, or does He have a form? Because sometimes, you have heard this word nirakar, and then you think that God doesn't have any form. But nothing that has no form can ever exist. So if something exists, it has a form, right? Now, when so even wind has a form, air has a form. So you can create a picture of it. So everything has a form. So when you talk about God, God is Nirakar, which means, so you see, there are in geometry, you learn about forms, and then when you learn about a point doesn't exist geometrically, because a point is the interface between the form and the formless. So a point exists, but it is not called a form. So when you say nirakar or formless, it means in the form of a point. So who is God, or what is the form of God? God is a point of light. Now, if you see every religion, so although nowadays most religions disagree with each other on most things, but if you look at the essence of all religions, they agree on how they depict God, or what is their understanding of God. So if you look at Islam, Islam says Allah ek noor hai, ya noor e illahi. So which means God is light. Noor means light. Okay. Then, when you think about Christianity, in Christianity, Jesus never said, I am God. Jesus said, God is light and I am the Son of God. So, even there, the thing about God being light has been told. Then in Sikhism, Guru Nanak Dev Ji said, Ekonkar Nirakar. So again, God is a point of light, was there in Sikhism. And then in Hinduism, you see, we have been worshipping God in the form of deities and idols and figures. But if you look at the ancient Hindu culture, then the first temple that was built in Hinduism was the temple of Somnath. And in that temple, there was no idol or there was no figure. There was just this shivling made of diamonds. And then the shivling is called Shiv Jyotirlingam, which means Shiva, the symbol of light. So, Shiva is not the Shankar Murti that we created later on. Shiva is a point of light, and that is why it was called Shiva Jyotirlingam, or Shiva, the symbol of light. So, who we called Shiva was not the picture of Shankar that you nowadays think about as Shiva. But Shiva was only a point of light. So a point of light was called Shiva. And then to depict that God looks like this, we created a Shivlingam made of diamonds to show that this is the form of God and He's a form of light. But later on, we started worshipping, creating these idols and worshipping them. Why? You see, first we need to understand why we need to connect with God in the first place. Right? So then we will talk about how we started connecting with Him wrongly. But first, in the beginning, why were these forms of worship, or why did Jesus talk about God, or why did Jesus urge people to remember God and said, God is light and I am the Son of God, and I'm giving the message that you should have love for God. So, why do we need to have love for God in the first place? Or why do we need to have a connection with God? Because when you have a connection with someone, you think about them. And when you think about them, their qualities start becoming your qualities. You start becoming like them. Now, when you think about God, because God doesn't have a body, God is a small star, a point of light. So, what happens is you also start thinking of yourself as a point of light by virtue of your relationship with God as His child. So, you are His child and He is a point of light. So, this will remind you that you are a point of light, right? So just like in the meditation in the beginning, we try to come to the awareness that I'm a point of light. Doing all this work, engaging in roles, responsibilities, my basic form is just a point of light. And then I am carrying this whole ego about looking like this and doing that and having this role and that role. But then we need to sometimes shed that ego, unburden ourselves, and just come to this lightness of being a point of light. So, whenever you were supposed to visit the temple, you were supposed to shed your body. So, leave your body outside. That is, leave the awareness that you are a body and go and meet the bodiless and sit in that awareness that I'm just like this bodiless one. Just like God doesn't have a body, I also don't have a body. This is all taken up, and I can operate with them by being this light, pure, powerful being that I am. So this is why there is this culture of leaving the leather outside. So the when you go to the temple, you are asked to leave your leather belt and leather purse and leather slippers outside, because leather doesn't enter the temple. So you can't meet God by thinking of yourself as a being, as a body made of this leather. So you can't think of yourself as a body and meet God. So this was the reason why we left all the leather outside. So basically, why we needed to connect with God is so that we rise above our body consciousness. Yes, and when you are in body consciousness, then birth and death matter to you, then gain and loss matter to you, and then you get caught up in all of that and you stop doing what you can. But when you are free from body consciousness, then you are free from these pulls of opposites. You are not pulled by the fear of birth or death, or you are not pulled by the fear of failure or the fear of loss. And then you can do whatever you can in the best possible manner. So, the purpose of engaging with God or connecting with God was to become God like, that is, bodiless. But what we did instead is we found it very difficult to come to an awareness that I am bodiless. So men simplified it for themselves. What they did is they made God like them. So instead of going to God and remembering that He is bodiless and consequently remembering that I am bodiless, we found out a shortcut. Give Him a body. Okay, so give God a body and then there will be no problem in connection. So instead of becoming bodiless yourself, you gave Him a body, and not only a body. You know what we did to God? We gave Him all the qualities that we had also. So we like to smoke, drink. Okay, God also smokes and drinks. So God is not Shiva, He is Shankar, and then He has these habits of smoking and drinking and everything. And then you create stories about God getting angry and God taking revenge and God waging wars and God teaching you to go and kill people because that is what you want to do. So man made it very simple for him. Instead of trying to become like God, he made God like him. And then all the problem finished. Because today you tell anybody that this is not God like, he says, no, in the scriptures, God is doing this. So God is killing, God is plotting, God is planning, God is asking to go and have a fight or a war. So God is doing all of this because man created God is in his own image instead of going and understanding that I am made in God's image. Yes, so, there was this one brother, and once he came to me and told me, Didi, I'm a chain smoker and I don't know how to get rid of this habit. So, could you suggest something? So, I said, why don't you think of yourself as a pure being, and you should think of yourself as a divine soul, and it doesn't look right that you smoke and drink being a divine soul. So I said, Didi, please pardon me, but Shankar ji bhi to chilam pite hai na. So our God also smokes, so then why do we need to abstain from smoking? So I said, yes, this is the most convenient way we found out. So, instead of teaching the whole humanity not to smoke, you just make a picture of God smoking, and then everything looks very, very okay and fine because God is also doing that. So the whole thing is we had to become like God by remembering God, but then human beings decided that instead of making that whole effort, why don't we make God like us? And then we wrote stories about God teaching us to take revenge and to kill. And now, just tell me one thing. You see, when we talk about Gandhiji, we say, he said, an eye for an eye will make the whole world blind. Or we say, you should hate the sin, not the sinner. Yes, पाप से नफरत करो, पापी से मत करो. So we always say that the sin and the sinner are two different things. So the sinner has sin, but that sin doesn't make that person a sinner. The soul is pure, but yes, now there is a sanskar of sin. But in the Gita, we wrote stories about God saying that if you go and kill the Kauravas, then all the Kauravatva will finish. So if you want to finish the sin, you finish the sinner. But does it work like that? And if that is true, then we should all go and kill all the people who are wrong around us. So that will finish the whole problem. So you see, when we create law, we understand that the purpose of law and justice is not to punish, it is to reform. That is why jails are known as places of reform, not punishment. Sudhar Griha, it is called. So, jails are supposed to be places of reform, and although it has not taken that form very aptly because of the human inefficiency to be that loveful or reformative, but that is how it is supposed to be. So, jails and courts are not for punishment, they are for reform. So, we understand very well that if you don't reform someone and you punish them, it doesn't do any good, because that soul, even if you give them death penalty, they will take another birth and they will carry the same sanskar that they had in this birth. So a soul carries the sanskar which it lives with in its lifetime. So if I go and hang somebody, that somebody will carry that same sanskar into the second life. This is why you see young, very young children these days committing heinous crimes. So there are young children, age 8, 10, 13, 11, committing molestation, murders, these and this and that. Why? Because these are souls that are carrying these sanskars from past birth, because we have stopped believing in reform in this birth. So those souls are carrying that same sanskar and taking a smaller body, and then the body is small, and then as soon as the body becomes capable of demonstrating those sanskars, then they start doing that. So Gita is not about, so God never talks about, God would never say that you go and kill the sinner if you want to finish the sin. So Gita is a symbolic literature, if you see, and it is about killing the sin. So the sin is represented by Kauravas. So the sin is not a person. So just like, you use personification in literature, so the sin personified is the Kauravas. So they are not humans. So no human is a sinner. So when we talk about the inner world, there is the tendency to sin inside, and that has to be killed, not people outside. So all this got very diluted because human beings created these scriptures. So Gita was not written by Sri Krishna, Gita was written by Vyas Dev Ji. And Ramayana was written by Valmiki Devji, and these were great souls who gave the knowledge that they could to the best of their knowledge and ability. But still, they were humans, and humans always have these tendencies of anger and revenge and other stuff in them. And then, slowly, gradually, they will come up to that. So they wrote that, you should forgive and this and that, and but when ultimately what they defended is righteous anger. So they said that if it is too much, then you go and kill. But no, God never says this, because God is the ocean of love. So how can he ask you to kill ultimately? He wouldn't say that. So there is no righteous anger in the dictionary of God. Anger is never right in whatever circumstances it is. So there is a very good story about this. So there is a patient and he goes to a doctor, and the doctor says, you see, love is the cure of all ills. And the patient says, I used it and it didn't work. So the doctor says, it always works, just increase the dose. So you don't have enough love, that is why love fails. Otherwise love would never fail if it is given in the right dose. So this is what God says. God never talks about righteous anger, or God would never say you kill. God would never say that there is a difference between man and woman in terms of social status. So we created these stories about Lakshmi ji always pressing Vishnu ji's legs and giving him comfort, and Vishnu ji always having a life of comfort. So we created these stories because we were body conscious, and there was a difference between the status of men and women in the minds of human beings, not God. So these everything that we learned about God came from a human source and a body conscious source. So instead of God taking us above body consciousness, we brought God into body consciousness, wrote stories about God behaving in a very body conscious manner. Okay, so we said God had a Shudra friend or God had this friend. So God wouldn't differentiate between a Brahmin and a Shudra and stuff. So for God, everybody is the same. So we created these things and then we, what do we say? We justified them by putting them down in literature and scriptures, and then we made it some kind of law. Now, what you are listening to comes from God. So God comes and tells you that I am not what you have made me out to be, and I am this and I'm not that. So, this is why I am taking so much time in clarifying to you how God is, or what God says, or what He does, and what He doesn't do, which we believe He does. So, because this information that you are getting today is not coming from a source of some scripture or some human, it is coming from God directly. And how God came and gave these things, I will tell you. But first, let's know what God gave so that you discern. It's not the source that matters, it's the knowledge that matters. So if you understand what God is saying and you are in consonance with it, then God is telling you the way to know Him accurately, to connect with Him accurately, and take power from Him and make yourself in His image now. So, this is the whole process. So, instead of making God in our image, now we have to go back to being in the image of God. And what is God? God is pure energy, ocean of love. God never changes his stage from love to anything else. So, even if there is a murderer or a molester in front of God, he would always treat him with love and make him rise above his weakness. So, love is a power, and when you get pure love, that makes you rise above your weakness. So, there was this brother, and he gave me a very good account of how he left smoking. And he told me, Didi, I had been a chain smoker for 30 years. And then, so I had my first child at the age of 42. So that was a very big moment for me, and I really loved my child. And then, when my child was 2 years of age, that child was in my arms, and my child just took my cigarette and threw it away and said, Papa, aap mar jaoge. And that one moment, I left smoking. So he said, 30 years ki habit, Didi, it just went away in a second because of that loveful statement that I cared for you and I don't want you to die. So, this is the power of love. So, God says, I love you unconditionally, and whatever place you are in right now, you just know that I love you. And when God loves us, He gives us the power to rise above our own weakness. So that is God. God doesn't teach us wrong ways, or God doesn't label us according to what we did or what our journey has been. He never calls us a sinner or a Kaurav. For God, everybody is a Pandav. So every child is God's child, and God never says that if you belong to me, if you know me, if you go by what I say, you will never be a sinner anymore. You and your sin will be two separate things. You will know yourself as my child, as a pure being, and the sin will not be, you will not identify with your sin anymore. Okay, so we will talk more about this tomorrow. Om Shanti. Let's meditate for some time. Sit still and quiet and come to the awareness that I am this pure being, separate from the body. Now invoke Shiv Baba, the supreme point of light, the ocean of love, into your awareness. Just feel His presence, His rays of love, pure and unconditional, being showered on you. Baba, my loveful parent, the ocean of love is holding me in His embrace, in the canopy of His loveful rays. And in this loveful embrace, all my fears and worries and hurt is getting washed away. I am in the embrace of God's love, and the waves of that ocean of love are washing away all the impurity, the darkness, the burden that I had been carrying. This is such a relaxing and recharging, nurturing and healing experience. Just sit in these thoughts for some time.